All right, I will bring the January 17th, 2023 Board of Education meeting to order. Roll call.
Kate Thomas,
Here.
Troy Carr,
Here.
Deb Baker,
Here.
Jim Hansen,
Present.
Clay Colomb,
Here.
Jamie Clapham,
Here.
Michael Berkland.
Here.
Laura Jensen, Megan Zhu, and Kevin Big Crow.
All right, time for invocation, and I'm not sure who we have tonight.
Pastor Brock.
Matt Bridges, okay. Randy Brock, sorry. Oh, do we have somebody that's on, signed up?
We double booked.
Okay, we did. All right.
I just had this on my calendar, so hey, I'll read it.
So we have Matthew Brock,
Bridges.
Bridges.
Yes.
Thank you. Go
All right.
ahead.
Father, we thank you for this day. I pray for the teachers that you would give them compassion and kindness. I pray for administration that you would give them patience and creativity. And I pray for this board that you would give them wisdom and discernment. Father, we thank you. We pray a blessing over this night. And we pray when this night ends that you would keep everyone safe as they go home. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, on to the approval of the agenda. I need a motion. Jim, Deb. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, we are on to sharing this success. Mrs. Swaggart.
Hello, board. My favorite part of every board meeting. I know that in November or December, in my report, I talked about having gone over to Stevens High School to watch their FFA team do a run through for a competition at the state level they were going to. So they're here tonight because I have great news about how they did. In Ag Issues, a team of 3 to 7 students discussed the pros and cons of a major agricultural issue facing their area. Rapid City Stevens FFA chose the topic, "Will locally owned beef packing plants save America's beef industry?" The team then presented their research and information at industry and public interest forums. The team will travel to Indianapolis, Indiana in November to compete at the National FFA Convention. November? Wow, that seems like a long time away. This event is sponsored by the South Dakota Farmers Union. The state winning team travel scholarship is sponsored by the South Dakota Farmers Union and Central States Fair, Black Hills Stock Show. The members of the team are Rapid City sponsor, Central States Fair, Black Hills Stock Show representative and team coach, Danny Heron. She's here. And then I have certificates for the students. Before I do that though, this was so incredible because they set this up like a radio talk show interview, and they had representatives, they played representatives that were against local meat packing plants and representatives that were for meat packing plants. And it was like a live kind of old-fashioned radio play kind of, but they had all of their information so well memorized, so well done. I was just an honor for me to watch them kind of rehearse it. Then they went to state and won. So that was November of 2022, and now they're going to do it again in November of 2023. That's just incredible. But I would like you to come up, and I have these certificates for you. Daphne? We'll just have you line up, then Bobby will come take our picture. We'll be on Facebook together. Just facing the board, please. Yeah. Ethan Hendricks. Elliot Hendricks. Tyler Sears. Alexa Rowland. Madison Hoffman. Jessica Jonas? Joan, okay. And the coach or the advisor is, I never pronounce it right. Janetti Hendricks. So I'd like her to come up to, would like you guys to come up to get the picture.
Great job.
So these young students are a perfect example of why we need to continue to have FFA in our high schools. I know it would benefit our middle schools as well. We have the need for this knowledge and this work in our district. So I want to thank the board for always supporting that.
Bishop Carr has a question.
Number one, what's FFA? I'm not-
Well, it used to be, is it still future? Okay. When I was in high school, it was Future Farmers of America, but what is it? Is it now the same?
It's the National FFA organization now,
Okay.
because we do more than farm. So Future Farmers of America is our acronym, and that'll always be part of our kind of heritage moving forward, but it's been the National FFA organization for 1988.
Just as old people know it as Future Farmers of America, these young people are going to move it forward, just know it as FFA
Okay, and so for clarity, there was a competition, I'm assuming, a
at the state level.
state level, and they won that.
Yes,
Okay, so that's why they're going to national.
yes.
Okay, well, congratulations.
And the national will be against every
State winner.
state, right? Okay,
There's usually about 38 states in this
Oh, okay.
competition, so.
okay. That helps.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right,
you.
well, congratulations. Great job. We're very proud of you. All right, moving on to persons wishing to address the board. We only have one, so 5 minutes is the time. Forrest Cooper.
Recently, I met a person new throughout the city who has teaching experience, and they were interested in getting hired as a teacher here. This person started off by substitute teaching to get a feel for the schools here. And the story was a little bit sad in that this person was disturbed. I don't know if that's the right word, at the discipline problem that this person faced. And this was going to be a factor whether this person would look to get hired on as a full-time teacher. So my comment or question is, what is the state of discipline that we're able and willing to do in problem students? And also, have we become intimidated to do what we might call proper discipline for fear of lawsuits, political action, or whatever it needs? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have no further people wishing to address the board. Very quiet night, but we do have board response to this topic. If any board member would like to respond to that or any other topic from a prior meeting.
Andrew.
Okay, go ahead, Bishop Carr.
Thank you for bringing that issue. I have once I get my facts together, I have a other presentation about a young teacher that I know of that started teaching this semester and has questions already on whether they will continue next year because of the issues they have with behaviors and not feeling like there's anything done. So I can substantiate what you're saying because I have personal knowledge of another teacher who's dealing with the same issue of whether they're going to continue teaching because of the issue. So thank you.
I would only make the comment that this board and this administrative team is very, very aware of the discipline problems that are going on and the behavior problems that are going on, not just in our district, but it's across the nation. But we are making moves to do something that's better for the students that aren't directly involved because it disrupts a lot of times the education of other students and burns our teachers out. So we did already go to Sioux Falls for a visit in the way that Sioux Falls District actually has a great plan in place that seems to be working really well. I think they have offered to have more board come and tour the two disciplinary behavioral schools that they call them. I don't know if that's aptly named, but it's really helpful for some of these students to go to these other schools. But then what's really good is the concentration and the focus of getting them back into their schools where they have their friends, getting those behaviors under control and helping those teachers out that have many of the biggest issues. So we are working on that. It is definitely not an overnight thing, but any board members wanting to go to Sioux Falls to check out a tour, I'm sure Mr. Talley would be able to put something together again. And that's just my comment there. Was there anybody else? Jamie Clapham?
Just really quickly, thank you as community. I said I always applaud a community for coming to speak, and just to kind of piggyback on what my fellow board members have said. Another thing, a lot of these things all tie together, and we're also looking at how to retain and recruit staff, because some of these challenges come when you have classes that are full, you have special ed staff that you don't have. So those two are really tied together. So sometimes when we talk about staffing and negotiations, know that is also part of addressing that issue. And so it is a multifaceted issue, and we're addressing both of those, both retention and recruitment of staff and from the behavior standpoint of students. So it is certainly on our radar on a number of levels.
Yep. Thank you. Any other board members? Okay, we are on to student representative reports. Laura Jensen from Central High School.
Hello, as she just said, my name is Laura Jensen and I am your school board representative from Central. Welcome to finals week, because that's what's going on in our schools right now. So the 18th through the 20th, students will be participating in their semester finals for all their classes. Students will be busy studying this week. In light of this, our student council has decided to provide hot tea for those in the library while they're studying. We're very thankful for all that they pitch in at our school. While most students will be taking their finals, some will get a little extra break because students that got proficient in both their math and English SBAC tests last year will be exempt for their on-campus finals, excluding AP finals for some classes, depending on the teacher. Seniors who took the NCRC in December 2020 have their results back as a token of our appreciation. As they're picking them up, they will be able to grab a Crumble cookie on their way out. And so that was nice of Crumble to donate half of what the cost was for those. Additionally, if students earn a silver or higher on the NCRC testing, they will be exempt for their semester 2 finals in May. The second semester starts next Tuesday. Teachers will be busy grading their finals and students will be busy preparing for their next classes. So make sure to tell your students and teachers what you mean to them this week because they're busy. I'd like to say congratulations to Central High School students Asher Burke, Abby Stevens, Sean Talon, Kaylee Tubber, and Connor Struck, who participated in the Black Hills Symphony Young Artist Competition this past weekend. Asher Burke won first place in the senior division and will be soloing with the symphony. Abby Stevens got second place in the senior division, as well as Caleb Van Vliet, who placed first in the junior division. We have very talented orchestra students at our school. It's fun. They're my friends, so it's like good to see them out there doing that. The Cobbler Volleyball Program is hosting its first annual co-ed Cobbler Volleyball Tournament happening on Friday, April 28th, 2023. The tournament will begin right after school, starting at 4 p.m., and it will be a rolling schedule depending on the number of teams that sign up. The final bracket will be released the beginning of the tournament week. There will be an award for the championship team as well as the best dressed. So be creative if you join, and the team with the most cobbler spirit. This is only open to staff, students, administrators, and coaches at Central. But you can mix students and staff to make a team. So I don't know, you're administrators, so I mean, for both schools, 3 schools, so like, you never know.
Okay, thank you. So on to Kevin Big Crow from Rapid City High School.
Hello, board. It's nice to see everyone here and everyone that joined us here in the crowd. I'll just get started right away here. And just like Laura Jensen said, we are nearing the end of our second term already. January 20th is the last day of this quarter and the end of our second 4 classes. This week's classes will be finishing up final projects and taking final exams. Then on January 24th, we will start the new 4 courses for third quarter. At the end of each quarter, Rapid City High School holds an all-school assembly on January 20th. We will have an assembly scheduled to allow for all learners and staff to gather in the historic theater. During the assembly, we will celebrate learners that have exhibited the school-wide expectations of being respectful, being present, and being courageous. Also, at this assembly, the Rushmore Rotary Club will be presenting the first semester Students of Distinction Awards. Also, as we know, Rapid City High School houses many wraparound services to support the learners of our district. Today, I want to share with you briefly about the district's GED program housed at Rapid City High School. The GED program is open to students who are 17 years and older and prepares the learners for 4 GED tests. This year, already 22 learners have passed the GED test thanks to the program, and another 5 learners are on track to complete the GED in the next 3 weeks, with 43 currently enrolled. Thank you to Ms. Hanson and Ms. Kavanaugh for supporting the learners of the GED program. In closing, I'd like to remind you of our school-wide expectations at Rapid City High School. Be respectful, present, and courageous. Respectfully submitted, Kevin Big Crow.
Thank you. All right, and we have Megan Ju from Stevens High School.
Hello, everybody. I'm Megan Ju, and I'm glad to see everybody here tonight. So last week, the seniors at Stevens had grad time, and Mr. Julius, one of the math teachers at Stevens High School, shared about his climb of Mount Kilimanjaro over Christmas break. And it was really interesting to listen to his journey to the tallest mountain in Africa. Last Tuesday, the Stevens held their Stevens Art Community Show from 5 to 7:30, and there was a great turnout. Many hardworking art students had the opportunity to show off their amazing artwork, and people who came really enjoyed it. On Saturday, Stevens held the winter formal in the gym, and we had great attendance with around 250 to 300 students showing up. The student council was able to use the money from tickets to raise money for upcoming events for the senior class. Many students also stayed after the dance to help clean up, showing amazing Raider respect. Today, Jody Brenner, a public health nurse from Oyate Health, was able to come into Intro to Health classes and talk about nursing with interested students. Girls and boys basketball are playing Sturgis tonight and also have multiple games this weekend against Watertown and Brookings. Make sure to go support. And then there's a band concert this Thursday, and all-state band auditions are coming up. Stevens High School was also well represented at the Black Hills Young Artist Competition, with Youngjin Yang and I receiving honorable mentions in the senior division and Cordelia Gray receiving runner-up in the junior division. Speech and debate competed in Sioux Falls last weekend, and they are competing in Watertown this weekend. Looking into the future, Stevens is hosting a job fair on February 23rd, and we've had many companies contact Mrs. Hafner. So Mrs. Hafner is actually expanding the space for the jobs fair so that we can host more booths. And then last reminder, we have finals tomorrow, so make sure you show up to the right classes.
Yes, go ahead, Jim.
First off, Thank you for your reports. Mr. Big Crow, you said 22 students passed their GED?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Nicole, is that the new, like as of 6 years ago, the new GED that the state implemented, that we implemented? That's the new one, right?
Yes, Mr. Hanson, the GED test changed in 2014. It became significantly more
Oh,
challenging.
yeah.
This GED test that students take now are 4 tests: English, science, social studies, and math. Each test is written at least the 9th grade reading level. They also, at the results of the test, they give you a college readiness score in addition to pass or fail the GED test. I think sadly, the English test is the easiest. My English heart hurts because it's that way, but I think the math and the social studies are the most challenging. Math, because a lot of students who are struggling to do well in high school kind of stop at algebra, and it goes all the way up to algebra 2 and geometry. But social studies is incredibly challenging because it covers world geography, world history, American history, American government, civics, and it also covers some econ. So it is a vast amount of knowledge and information that is covered in that test. I'm always very impressed by the students who do so well in that, and I'm so thankful that Rapid City Area Schools offers that to 17-year-olds who do not feel like they're going to reach their diploma. 22 at this time of year, that's incredible.
Well, it's more than incredible because I was on the board back when they brought it to the board, and 2 people out of 100 took it, if I'm not mistaken. 2 people out of 100 passed. It was that hard. So there's huge accolades to the students. If you know any of them, please pass on congratulations, and to the staff for making sure they're prepared, because the state was very clear. This is not the GED of our era that you can, halfway study and pass it. This is, you got to get with the program. So please, if you know any of the students, pass on a big congratulations. And Nicole, to the staff, they did a great job preparing to have that many students, like you said, this time of the year pass it. So thank you.
And you'll all be getting an invitation to the GED completion ceremony. It's held the Thursday before graduation weekend. Last year, I think we had 60 or more GED completers. So thank you.
All right, moving on to conflict of interest. None have been turned in. So we're on to number 10, first reading of JFG and JECC.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. On to the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Did anybody want anything pulled? Okay. Jim and Deb, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, moving on to items for information. Budget presentation from Coy Sassy, my favorite part of the report.
Certainly always the best part of any board meeting, right? Actually, this is short and mostly sweet board. So
Okay.
I will share my screen. Whoops. Shirley, may I share my screen? There we go. Still says disabled, Shirley. Okay. There we go. Excellent. Thank you, ma'am. So, board, going to give you an update this evening on I can see my buttons, fiscal year 23, the current fiscal year Q2 update. So Q2 ended December 31st. So we are at that point 50% through the fiscal year. Again, if everything looked exactly the way we wanted it to, and worked out perfectly, we would be looking for 50% markers on all this data. Of course, it doesn't always work like that, but we'll see some good trends in this data. So first, looking at the general fund side, as we always do, the general fund revenue, our total revenue collection year to date is 41.5 million, or about 40.66 of total revenue. If you recall back to the Q1 review board, the trend in both general fund capital outlay and even into special education was we were seeing really lagging revenue because of the federal side of things. The consolidated application, which houses the majority of our federal money, had just been approved. We had not got the large drawdowns done of expenditures that had accumulated for those programs. Also, the major player on the capital outlay side was the $50 million that we have scheduled for the South Middle School project that is ESSER funded, and very little of those funds had been drawn down at that point. So we're seeing now on the general fund side, our revenue starting to catch up to where we want it to be, still under. We see local sources at about 48% after the first large tax deposit of the year. And again, that happens in November. State sources at about 40%. A couple of larger state revenue pieces that we're still awaiting, one being the state apportionment, and then the bank franchise tax payments. Those are still outstanding, so that'll swing when those come in as well. And then federal sources still lagging, but up to 17.7%. And those will really start to catch up over the second half of the year. That's really where they start to align and look more realistic. So revenue is definitely getting back to a point where it looks more on track. On the expenditure side, total expenditures year to date about 43.5 million, right about the 42% mark. Instruction, which is really the biggest bucket, at about 45%. Support services at 39%. And then extracurricular slightly over that 50% mark at about 52%. So total expenditures really right on track on the general fund side. Moving over to capital outlay, on the revenue side, total collected revenue year to date about 15.9 million, or about 19.5%. Again, local sources really starting to catch up at about 44% after the first tax deposit. Federal sources still lagging at 15%. At this point, we've drawn down about 3.7 million of that total projected $54 million budget. So that's really continuing to pull the overall figure backwards. So if we back that out and we looked at normal ongoing capital outlay revenue, we're going to be much closer to that 47% marker that we would be looking for. On the expenditure side, kind of mirroring what we're seeing on the revenue side, 16.58 million year-to-date expenditures are about 21.5%. Again, capital outlay is unique in terms of the idea that it is more of a project-based budget. So no particular areas of concern. Obviously, the South Middle School project is really what's dictating the overall level of expenditures for that fund. Still seeing some of those supply chain issues and those inflationary increase issues that we talked about at the Q1 review that are causing problems. I think I gave you my example at our last discussion regarding the cargo van that we bid for our technology department. Came in 15,000 over on the first bid. With only one bid received, we rebid it, send it out. We typically only send those things locally.
Yeah.
We send it out across the state, kind of across the region, North Dakota, over into Wyoming. Got the same bid back and it went up $5,000. So 20,000 over. So it's a really difficult situation. But those are things that we have to deal with, and we have to make difficult decisions around. Do we move forward? Do we halt? Obviously, not moving forward puts us further and further behind in terms of replacing a lot of those really badly needed pieces of equipment, or taking on some of those projects that continue to increase from an inflationary standpoint. So I would say we certainly see that lessening over the second quarter, but still is a factor. But overall, capital outlay is in good shape. Just a few notes from the other funds. So state aid to special education is lagging significantly at this point at about 32%. And I will spare you all the really long-winded explanation of that, but in a nutshell, it really is mirroring the experience we're having on the general fund side, where because of the downturn in enrollment and because of the rapid increase in property tax, it creates a big hole in terms of the district's state aid revenue to special education. So we're seeing the same type of experience in that fund that we are in the general fund. Student nutrition revenue also lagging at about 24%. A couple major issues here. I think one being the discontinuation of free meals at the federal level, which was part of the COVID response. Feeding every kid for free has caused some confusion amongst our parents and guardians in terms of making sure that they have the information necessary. We have the information necessary to qualify those folks for free and reduced meals. So Krista Leichner, the student nutrition manager, and her staff are really doing a lot of work in that area and trying to collect that data, make sure that we have it so that we are able to qualify every single student that should qualify. And then, just in general, I think returning to more of a normal year, so to speak, we still have some of these issues that we were experiencing pre-COVID, which is partially that our participation rates, meaning our students participating in school meals are lower, and that's been a trend over a long period of time for the district. And so Krista Leichner has been really invigorating to the student nutrition program. I think she's got a great staff. She has really great ideas. I believe we're going to try to bring her in later spring, early part of summer for a study session. She does a really great job of talking through some of the issues that program is experiencing. But I think, like a lot of things, we need to change the way that not only we think about student meals, but help the perception around student meals, as I'm sure these young folks would tell you, to reinvigorate that program. And she's got some great ideas around that. The overall expense budget is at about 35% right now. So that is of note. Obviously, overall, we're trending well under in terms of expenditures, which is good. As I shared with you, I giving some of the major changes that we had in the budget last year, and some of the moving pieces we had in terms of personnel and bringing that information together. I was concerned, but overall right on track. So summary, revenue figures are beginning to look more realistic as we move into the midpoint of the year. I think in most instances, we'll continue to see that throughout the second half of the year. Certainly the regular ongoing sources of revenue to our major funds. Expenditures right on track, actually trending well below. So overall, the budget is really in a strong position as we move into the second half of the year. One more thing I want to comment on, Madam Chair, prior to turning it back for questions. So every year, after the fiscal year wraps up, the state compiles all the information that they get from school districts from the annual report, which is the comprehensive report, financial report that we submit to the state. And they put together what they call a statistical digest. And this is a really, really valuable piece of information. It's not going to be anything, hopefully, that you've never seen. A lot of it is pretty basic information, student data, teaching staff data, enrollment data, state aid funding, fund balance information, a lot of property tax information. So it's a really good source of just kind of a 2-page document that you can look at and pull a lot of information from. There's one piece of information in particular that I find really valuable that gets produced in this statistical digest. And that is what the state calls the cost per ADM, or average daily membership. That is, essentially a comparison point that the state has come up with in terms of breaking down a lot of the common expenses that school districts have, and then ranking districts by that data point. So as you can see, I listed our district's fiscal year 22 profile here, and our cost per ADM for fiscal year 22 was $9,783, meaning that of these selected expenditures that the state uses for this comparison point, we were spending $9,783 per student to educate our kids. So the other really nice piece of that is then the state goes through and ranks all school districts. So we have 148 districts total in our state. We ranked, as you can see, 111th of those 148. Just for comparison purposes, not to beat up our good friends in Sioux Falls, but Sioux Falls ranked 113, and they had a cost per ADM of 10,113. So it's just a good data point to compare on a year-over-year basis and understand, are we approximately where we were several years ago? What does that trend look like? What does the trend of other districts around us look like? It's one of the few consistent data points that we can really look at, especially in comparison to other districts around the state, and be able to understand what that looks like and how we flow in that trend. So I'm happy to forward that out to the board, and it's great information, good to peruse, but I wanted to bring that up in particular because I think that is a valuable piece of information. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back for questions, discussion.
Okay, first up would be Jamie Clapham.
On support services, are paras included under support services, or are they included under instruction?
Yes, ma'am. Instructional.
Instruction, okay, and
Yes.
that's all paras, both are special ed paras categorized differently, or are they still all under instruction?
So they're under instruction. The majority of paras in the district system are either special education funded or Title I funded. So you're not going to see a huge cross section of paras in the general fund. It's going to be really limited, primarily SPED.
And then Bishop Carr, are you done? Okay, Bishop Carr.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sassy. When I first got on the board, I spoke with you privately and in sessions about being strategic in our trying to reduce our budget, our expenditures. And I know part of this is going to come out in our strategic plan as we address that. But then I had a thought, and maybe this is just a statement, not a question.
Sure.
The difficulty when you mentioned about inflation in our van situation, how do you save money when stuff is just getting more expensive?
Yeah.
And so that was just an interesting thought in my mind of me really wanting to, well, how can you do that if stuff is just more expensive?
Sure.
So trying to do both, it's going to be an interesting dynamic,
Yeah.
especially in our strategic plan discussion about how that happens and what that looks like.
Yeah, really excellent points, Bishop Carr. I think you hit the nail on the head. The real difficulty of that sometimes can be, it seems like such a simple equation, right? We remove expenses, we increase revenue, and that's how we get to a better financial situation or position. And obviously, as you become more and more aware of the factors that play into that, there's so many complexities and so much difficulty in looking at that situation and really pulling back and being able to look at it from the big picture and pull all those puzzle pieces together. It's really difficult, but I would say also not impossible. Difficult, but not impossible. And I really feel good about, again, as I mentioned, where we are at currently with expenditures, because that was a big part of the strategy that we employed last year as we tried to flow more money into compensation increases, was the idea that we're going to kind of simultaneously do these two things. We're going to increase compensation. We're also going to try to find areas that we can decrease the budget. And so hopefully those two things would help to not necessarily totally blunt the increase in compensation, but at least start to offset so that we didn't have the major impact to the general fund, to capital outlay. And again, I'm encouraged because that really worked. And I was concerned about that on some level, just that you go over and over the numbers and you think they're going to work, but we want to make sure they're going to work. So it's not an impossible scenario. Obviously, there are difficult discussions and decisions that have to be made through that process. But I think if we can continue down that path, it's not easy and it will take time, but we can get to where we want to be.
Did you have your hand back up again? Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, board.
All right, on to an informational item about WDT, Western Dakota Tech, and board appointee process. I will hand that over to Mrs. Swaggart, and we have President Ann Bowman on as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, President Thomas. As I think all of you know, in the past, the Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education also had the duty of being the Board of Education for Western Dakota Tech College. In that process, a few years ago, it was decided to separate them because I don't know that WDT was being fully represented at the level that they wanted to be to grow and continue their work. And I also know that for Rapid City Area Schools, it took up a lot of board time. When that happened 3 years ago and they separated, Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education appointed 9 WDT board members. 3 of them served a 1-year term, 3 more served a 2-year term, and the final 3 served a 3-year term. It is now time for Rapid City Area Schools to approve this spring through a process to approve 3 representatives for the last time. This is the last time Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education will have input on the WDT board. That process is mapped out by WDT, and Dr. Wellman can chime in if she disagrees or wants to clarify anything I'm saying. That process is mapped out that WDT will bring a slate of representatives to Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education to be talked about and then bring forth and approve 3 board representatives that will serve on the WDT board for 3 years. That process needs to be wrapped up with us approving the board members that the WDT president and the board bring forward by May so that their board can approve them and swear them in to start serving in July. I think that basically sums it up.
Right, so there are 3 members right now up for that appointment, and we are the ones who will appoint the next ones. They have expressed interest to stay on the board. However, that does not mean that any board member here or anybody you know in the community can't apply, if you will. But I think this is just a preliminary, hey, this is going to happen, and now we can have other conversations on what to expect or how this process works. And there is a rubrics that they kind of go over, and there may be somebody in the community that you know that would like to be on this board. So unless any board member would like to as well. So, Jim.
Three that are already on it, because they've been there and worked through the whole process. Just curious, because this has been a huge.
So the three that I believe is somebody out of Hot Springs, Dr. Willard out of Belfouche, and Kurt Pokart.
And
who
then Mike Ressler and Ron Reichert served on it. as well.
served, but
They're off.
done.
They're
Yeah,
off.
1 and
but-
2 years.
But the
Yes.
ones that are currently serving have expressed an interest in serving again, moving forward. I know Dr. Willard and Kurt Pokart. Dr. Bowman, do you know the other name? I'm sure you do.
Yes. Thank you. And I appreciate you guys talking about this early so that we can get the process moving. I appreciate your time. The third person is Andrea Powers, and she is the Economic Development Director for Hot Springs, for the Hot Springs area.
Any other questions for, go ahead.
Or how this is gonna come forward to us, so we can, what's the process from today on?
So Western Dakota VOTEC will consider interests that people have. It needs to go through WDT. They will bring a slate of names forward to Rapid City Area School Board to approve or not approve, and then go back to the, I guess, the starting point for
By
them
the
to
end
do
of
the work.
April?
What's the timeline that they have to be?
They're gonna bring us the names in February or March. We are going to approve them in April or May. And
No, what is the deadline for person A to apply at WDT to be on this board?
Oh, that would be Dr.
Because
Bowman.
that's not our issue.
no,
That
that
all
is
we're
not,
doing is they're gonna give us three names and say, pick these three, please.
please.
Dr. Bowman?
Because they've already went through all the headache.
Correct.
Yes, I think that was part of our conversation tonight. If you know of people who are interested, I believe if we could get those names by February 5th, that will give us time to get the appointment slate together and approved on our February 8th meeting. And then we'll have them to you guys to start working with at your meetings in February and March. Or if we have conversations that we need to have, we'll still have time before we get these to you all in March.
Go ahead, Jim.
So I would like to see our media specialist to get that out so that everybody knows the timeline. So anybody who's interested in give, because this is a huge process and you need to understand that all the work WDT does, they need this done. And they need people who've either been with the program or affiliated with it due to how their outreach is. So I think our media person needs to get that out ASAP so that Dr. Bowman can get the candidates and get this process done.
Perfect.
Dr. Bowman's assistant did provide me with information too. So if anybody is interested in that, I have several items and I can send that to all the board members so they have that as well.
Please, yeah, send that to us.
Dr. Bowman, do you want the interest to reach out, the people who are interested to reach out directly to you, or do you want to send us a link or someplace that, an email that they can send their interest to?
Thank you for that question. I think if they direct it to me, then I can make sure that my assistant gets it all compiled up and that we get it to the board members, to our board members.
Thank you. I'll make sure that Bobby has that email address, and I will work with her so that we get something out. Bishop
Thank you.
Clark?
Just on the process, so are we gonna get 10 names that we pare down to 3, or are we getting 3 names that we approve or disapprove?
Dr. Bowman?
We plan on giving you 3 names that you guys can approve or disapprove with their backgrounds and kind of the matrix that we use that has to do with people with where they live, what field they're in, that type of thing, so that we've got Western South Dakota well represented.
Okay, and so if we disapprove one of those names, then it has to go back to the drawing board to pick another third person.
It could, because you all have 3 appointees to make. That could be part of the process, or it could be that we have, that I share the interest with you guys and just kind of get a little bit of feedback about whether those candidates are supported or not. I mean, that part, we haven't done this before, so that part, I am really open to suggestion from you all about what you think will work the best.
Any other questions? We can have further conversation and certainly reach out to Dr. Bowman for questions that you have too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bowman.
Reports from the superintendent. Go ahead, Mrs. Swaggart.
Hello, board. I know this is your favorite part of the meeting, primarily because you know it's almost over.
I was just kidding about that. The student reports are actually my favorite. They always have been.
Actually, they're my favorite as well. Since our last board meeting, I've been busy because that's what a superintendent is busy. I've attended a joint venture meeting with local superintendents from all over the western part of South Dakota. That is always very interesting because the conversation that takes place in the meeting part of that get together really opens the door for conversations about things like negotiations, contracts, and it's nice to hear from the experts in the room how things are going in the various districts. So we usually have a business meeting part, and then we have a kind of a question and answer part. And that group is really great about also reaching out and asking questions of each other. And it's really nice to have West River school districts kind of all on the same page. I met with South Middle School administration. It's hard to believe, but we are looking at opening a new building in the fall of 2024. That team of administration, you know, they are doing a really wonderful job of pre-planning how things are going to be moving forward. And I appreciate the fact that they are not procrastinators. They are really on top of things. So we've already been having meetings about next spring and how that changeover is going to look. I know the board is aware that we are in the process of wrapping up a 2011 Office of Civil Rights complaint, and district members participated in interviews with the OCR legal team last week, including myself. Those interviews were about 2 hours for each person. We really did a nice job of sending our data and information to them. And I think the team that interviewed, they were very complimentary of how all of our personnel interacted with them. And the message I tried to get out to our staff is that this is an opportunity for us to learn and improve, and it is certainly not a threat, but I think oftentimes in the past, OCR has really been viewed as a negative experience, but I think we have learned a lot through this process, so I want to share that with you. We are looking at staffing for the 24 school year, and I'm really appreciative of our directors on the district direction team that are motivated to do this in the best way possible, looking forward to for our district. And it is a group effort. It is not one person sitting in a room, but as we've talked about, and I've had lots of conversations with different directors and with Mr. Sassy about this, staffing is a complicated beast in the sense that if you have student decline at any grade level, it doesn't necessarily equate into not needing that teacher. So you could have a decline of 35 students in first grade across the district. And somebody might say, well, that's a class. That's a classroom of first graders. And so you get rid of a first grade teacher. But those 35 students aren't at one building. They're spread across the district. So when you look at suggested staffing numbers, you may still need every single first grade teacher that we have in the district. So it is very, very complicated, and it takes a lot of really smart people looking at the numbers to the forward. And of course, it still is a guessing game because we are guessing at what our numbers are going to be when students enroll next year. And as I've said before, we have students entering homeschool and students coming out of homeschool. We have students entering private school and coming out of private school. We have a ton of construction happening in our community with the highest building permit requests in history in December. And someone just recently said to me, Nicole, how come we can predict that all of these people that we're building houses for have no children? And I said, well, we absolutely can't predict that they have no children, but we have to be realistic in predicting the number of children that are going to be impacted in any elementary school. And so that brings a whole nother level of planning and need for looking at where the construction is and where our rooms, where we have room for additional students to come in. But there's absolutely no magic formula into knowing that this housing division that they're building out in the valley is going to need 2 classrooms of first graders, because we don't know if they do have kids, what age those children are going to be. So staffing is a big thing that we're focusing on right now. Elementary staffing was really under a magnifying glass last year. And this year, we need to continue that work in elementary, but we also need to put middle and high school under a microscope this year. I met with Black Hills Special Services Cooperative, and that is the umbrella agency for TIE. They are going through a rebranding, or they have new leadership at TIE, and they offer a lot of services that I think maybe have been overlooked locally. And it was really interesting to meet with them and find out about the services they can offer in professional development that would be at a much cheaper cost if they came in instead of bringing in people from out of state. Last October, on October 7th, we had a professional development day, and we asked them to lead it because we had a conflict with the special education team that was going to be creating the PD. I was on that team, so one of the conflicts was I was no longer available to do that work. But TIE came in and they did an amazing job. The pairs that reach out to me and to other people were very complimentary in that professional development that was designed specifically for paraprofessionals. So that was just a taste of what they can offer locally. So I'm excited to continue to look at that. I met with Rapid Valley's principal to kind of debrief about the bomb threat and the evacuation there. And I want to give Sherry Daniels a shout out because she did an amazing job of reflecting immediately with her staff and getting their input on what went well and what could be improved upon, and then condensing that down into concrete things that would benefit Rapid Valley immediately and concrete things that would benefit other schools in our district if we would have a situation like that. And I think that is really forward thinking on her part to get down to the details of that. How that staff reacted and how that community reacted was amazing. And then to turn it around to a district-wide learning event is even more incredible. So I am just in awe of everybody from the secretary who took the phone call to the administration who evacuated the building to the water treatment plant who helped bring in those kids to the community members who brought out blankets. We live in a really great place. Various school activities have been on my calendar, so I've gone to a gymnastics meet, basketball, wrestling, music performances, and as Megan pointed out, the art show at Stevens High School. I was blown away by the talent, and I know in my weekly wrap up last Friday, the little picture I included did not do the art justice. It was incredible, so that was very impressive. I met with Elevate to learn more about their work in the community and how they can partner with us on various activities and interests. And I thought that was really powerful because the work they do does really give us a picture of things that impact education. I went to Sioux Falls and back in 2 days. So I drove down on a Friday, went to a meeting and came back on Saturday evening. I met with RCEA. One of my favorite things I've done in the last 2 weeks is I presented to the retired school personnel group at Canyon Lake Senior Citizen Center. It was a large group, and they had the best comments and questions. The fact that they are still so invested in our school district made my heart happy. It just shows that although sometimes people feel that educators are not appreciated, the ones that have worked for us are appreciative. They are still actively engaged, and they were wonderful to spend time with. I also met with the Interschool Parent Council, which is a great group of representatives from each school district or each school building in the district, and parents come and share great things that are happening that other people can copy, borrow, learn about, ask questions of each other. And I appreciate that group of parents coming and joining me. We had the Big Five meeting, and this is the first one of the year because the first two got canceled, but I didn't know what the Big Five was. Well, it's the city, the county, the mayor, the school district, WDT, and School of Mines and Technology. And it was a really productive meeting that I look forward to the next one. I have met with a vendor that is going to set up a district area website for clothing opportunities that have the district logo on it, and area or district employees can, if they want to, be proud of where they work and can buy logoed shirts and jackets and have it sent directly to their house. And I'm pretty excited to be able to bring forth something that shows how proud we are to work for the district. Rapid City Public School Foundation had their board meeting last night. They voted on 2 more grants. I really love the way their grant process is working this year, because not waiting for a one-time look at all the grants, but as the grants come in, they're looking at them, they're talking about them as a board and presenting them. And they have a very exciting news conference coming up that impacts Rapid City area schools in a short amount of time. And I will speak more to that after the press conference is held. I've been watching closely the legislature, of course. It started January 10th, and we have some bills that are going to impact education already coming forward. And I also saw that today Governor Noem's proposal to eliminate the grocery sales tax was brought forward in the state legislature. So to watch that and the impact that that would have on the general fund of the state. As the students have said, it's the end of the semester. And although we didn't have school Monday and now it's finals week, we don't have school for students next Monday because our staff will be working and wrapping up, doing all the work to wrap up first semester and get ready to jump into second semester, which means that we are halfway through the year at the end of this week, halfway through the school year, which is always incredible. So that is my report for this week. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Okay. On to other. Do we have any others? Oh, did you have a question, Jamie? Okay. All right. Any others? Okay, go ahead.
Just a couple shout outs. One, I know, Mr. Sassy is very humble, but I am very appreciative of him of speaking, at the state level to legislators and spending 2 to 3 hours of his time really explaining and educating them. And that is really, just speaks to your commitment to the district and the commitment to, really get funding better in a statewide. So I'm very appreciative of that. Yesterday being Martin Luther King Day, and every year I usually try to do something to celebrate, and this year was go to the dentist. But thinking of that, I found this quote and said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, Martin Luther King. And I say that to say, it is not lost on me what a privilege it is to serve. And what a privilege when I look around this group and how amazingly diverse it is. And that we are from many walks of life, and that I've had the privilege to be in all 23 of our buildings and see what an amazingly beautiful district we have. And that as much as we get bogged down sometime in the minutia and in policies and dollars and cents, and that it is absolutely a privilege to serve, and that I am grateful to serve in this group and among this group of people. So that's my other.
Thank you. Any others? Okay. All right. I need a motion to go into executive session. Jim and Deb for SDCL 1-25-2.1. There will be no other further action afterwards. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
Question for you, Ms. Shirley.